bullets, tanks, extremism, oppression, and also the long veils for women. All of this, symbolically in some ways, represents the Taliban rule in Afghanistan. But according to the hardline Islamist group, these are said to be the things of the past. That is what they said when they came to power. Taliban 2.0 claimed that it was going to be different. And it's 1 year, exactly 1 year today, since the Taliban stormed to power in Kabul. So how different is the Taliban rule this time round? Now remember, exactly a year ago, the hardline Islamists captured Kabul and their nationwide lightning offensive against the government forces ended 20 years of the American-led military intervention and also led to a very chaotic withdrawal of the American-led foreign forces. The Taliban authorities have not announced any official celebration to mark the anniversary so far, but its state media has said that it will air some special programs. So let us now try and understand if the life for people in Afghanistan under the Taliban 2.0 has been any different this time round, or is it just old wine in new bottle for the people in Afghanistan? The return of the Taliban has only increased the hardship for the Afghan women. Initially, the Taliban had promised that they would take a much more softer approach in terms of how they deal with women's rights. But with the return of the Taliban, the extreme rules for women are back. As girls have been shut out from secondary schools, women have been barred from returning to many of their government jobs. The salons for women have been shut immediately after the Taliban took power in Kabul last year. In the month of May, they were also ordered to fully cover up in public, ideally with an all-encompassing burqa, which is typical to Afghanistan. Now, fighting the oppression, the Kabul women also took to the streets on Saturday. Now, believe it or not, this is how the Taliban fighters decided to disperse the protest by these handful of women who in fact showed exemplary courage by taking to the streets. The Taliban fighters resorted to firing in the air to disperse the women. The protesters also carried a banner calling the 15th of August, the anniversary day of the return of the Taliban, as a black day. Now, the women demanded their right to work and their political participation. But dissent does not seem to have any place under the Taliban regime. The humanitarian crisis has left the citizens of the country completely helpless. And it does not just stop with human rights violations and the suppression of women. According to aid agencies, half of the country's 38 million people face extreme poverty. And adding to their woes are the skyrocketing prices of the essential commodities. And amidst all of this, parts of Afghanistan are reportedly looking at the possibility of being hit by a famine. The 500,000 people have lost their jobs since the Taliban stormed to power last year. And according to the International Labour Organization, 770,000 boys and about 300,000 girls are now currently involved in child labour in Afghanistan. However, for the Taliban, the joy of victory overshadows all the crises and the problems which the people in Afghanistan are confronted with. And to give us more updates in terms of what's actually changed in the last 1 year since the Taliban stormed to power, we are joined in by our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik, who's joining us live from Islamabad. And Anas, of course, has been tracking this story very, very closely for us. He was there for the first 100 days since the Taliban stormed to power in Kabul. Now, Anas, this is a moment of a reckoning for the people in Afghanistan. The Taliban had promised that they are going to be different this time round, but things hardly seem to have changed.
Well, things you've rightly mentioned, Saleh, that they've barely changed for one very reason. Taliban still believe that they still can use force in order to thrive their power, in order to enforce their power. But what they are yet to come to terms with is the fact that this generation, since the American invasion began, or the war on terror began in Afghanistan, this generation is much more tech savvy. It has access to internet, onto social media, and that is something the Taliban are yet to come to terms with, because that that gives them much more visibility onto the urban centers. The Taliban believe that they can use force, that they can try to suppress the voices of women. A lot has changed in the past 1 year in Afghanistan. If I just talk to you about women's education, barely you'd see women girls going to higher secondary schools. More than half of the population sleeps hungry. That's as per the statistics. 38 million population. Out of the 38 million population, more than half are those who sleep hungry. It's a dire humanitarian crisis that is there for the past 1 year, and we're seeing little or no support from the international community. Saleh.
Absolutely, indeed, Anas. That's the situation that the people in Afghanistan have to put up with. And the Taliban, although they promised that they're going to be different, haven't shown themselves to be in any way different from what they were when they stormed power in 1996. Thank you very much indeed, Anas, for joining us there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.